Picture this. I am sitting in my home office in Colonia, New Jersey, getting ready to conduct an interview. I turn on my Zoom camera, and the candidate is there on her cell phone in a parking lot at the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. She quickly explains, I work at the Pentagon and they don't allow cell phones inside. I said, oh, that makes sense. They got a lot of sensitive secrets in the Pentagon. She wore a black mask like this with an NFL logo for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which she did not remove for the entire 30-minute interview. I stood there puzzled, confused, because we were there trying to connect. I'll ask you a quick question. I'm curious. Were you wondering if I was going to wear this mask for the entire? Were you confused and puzzled? Could you imagine me during that interview? So I ask you, for me, this pandemic has changed the way I connect with people and how I expect people to connect with me. Has it changed the way you connect? You see, I believe this pandemic has taken away many of the important and critical communication in-person tools to which we have gotten accustomed. Skills that we have become overused to. Today I'm going to share with you a few thoughts, few ideas to help you reconnect. How to help you regain some of those skills that we put aside for the last 18 or 19 months. How? Using our nonverbal communication skills. I believe many of you are familiar with the 3-38-55 communication rule. Quick show of hands, how many are familiar with it? Okay, a number of you. It was made famous by Dr. Albert Marbetti, based on his groundbreaking research in the 1960s that said 93% of your effective communication is nonverbal. It said basically how you deliver your message to your audience and your listeners is even more important than the words you say. To explain it further, I want to use this metaphor to shake things up. Okay, let me try again. I want to use this metaphor to shake things up. Okay, I want to all participate this time. I want to use this metaphor to shake things up. Shake things up. Basically, your nonverbal communication skills, namely your voice, your delivery, and your body movements, are like the neck on this bottle for your brain. You see, it does not matter the wisdom of your words or the impact of the ideas in your head, because no more will flow through this bottle than the neck will allow. So for your words or your ideas to change the world, or at a minimum, shake things up, you must remove the cap. Otherwise, nothing comes out. And when nothing comes out, you cannot connect. Before I get started, I want to say I am so happy to see you guys here today. It feels amazing just to be in an audience with people. Thank you for being here. What this really says is that we are starting to come out of the pandemic. I know it's taking a little time. We're starting to come out. But today I just want to share a few ideas, a few thoughts on how to help us to reconnect. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay. First, use more expressive nonverbal communication, namely your voice, your facial expressions, your body movement, all of those tools. You see that interview with that young lady? It started out slow. It was tough. But as the interview progressed and she became more excited about the job, when we started to connect, you could see and feel the enthusiasm in her voice and in her expressions. Namely, the pace of her words became quicker And she projected more. Her eyebrows raised and her eyes widened as she stared into the camera. And that little Jacksonville Jaguar that was on her mask seemed to dance as she expressed more. And as you saw more emotion, you could feel, I started to feel the connection in that interview. I always like to do this exercise when I'm on stage. I'd like to get 2 volunteers to, we'll go through some of the key facial expressions for the 6 key emotions. Can I get 2 volunteers? Anyone who can just, any of our guests willing to try? Somesh and Charles, please come on up. You stand at either side. You don't have to come on stage. I'm going to name each of the 6 emotions. I'll name them one by one, and I'd like you to demonstrate those to the audience. That sounds good? The 6 key emotions. Here we go. Happiness, sadness, fear, anger, disgust, surprise. Now I want you to do it a little bit more expressive. You were good so far. I want you to do it a little bit more expressive. Happiness, sadness, fear, anger, disgust, surprise. I want to ask the audience, how did that make you feel? Could you see the power? What I want to show is the power of using your emotions, and those are the 6 key emotions that we can use when we're speaking in the audience. This time I'm just going to ask you to put on your masks at this time. Both of you put on your masks, and we'll try to replicate those one more time. But this time I want to make sure you use all your complementary emotions to be expressed. Again, one more time. Happiness, sadness, fear, anger, disgust, surprise. Thank you very much. Thank you, Charles. Thank you so much. You see, in this environment, the challenge is that masks significantly limit our ability to give and receive emotions. And emotions is just so crucial to connect. See, during the height of the pandemic, emergency room doctors, they wore smiley faces on their scrubs so that their patients could know that they were happy to see them, and that significantly improved recovery times. One of the symptoms is that you saw sales of mascara, eyeliner, eyelashes skyrocket because people wanted to show that they were giving good eye contact. So I highly recommend, even when you're wearing a mask, use more expressive facial expressions. Use your eye contact, use your body movement, use your hand gestures, and supplement them with your verbal communications so that you can create and connect more. So that first tip, use more expressive facial expressions and body movement. Secondly, manage your space, manage your distance. At that job, which I'm relatively new at, my first hire, her name was Elizabeth. She works in our Tampa, Florida office. She was my first hire and she's been amazing. But just like the rest of my team, I had never met her. I only met her on my interviews and then just by working virtually. Coincidentally, since she lives in Woodbridge, she was visiting family and friends in the New Jersey area during the end of the summer. We decided to meet up for brunch. So we went to brunch at a beautiful restaurant in Metuchen. We had a wonderful time, eating, drinking, laughing, talking about work, connecting. But that entire time, we remained 6 feet apart. I want to go through a quick exercise, a visual exercise, to kind of explain to you how we look at space. This is basic. I'm going through the 4 dimensions of space. (12 to 25 feet). That is defined as public space. 12 to 25 feet. This is good for speaking in an audience like this is great for public speaking or large crowds. Public space. Next, 5 to 12 feet. Social space. Social space. This is good for when you're at work, this is co-workers, people who you are less familiar with. You hang out in social space. Now we're getting a little closer. 2 to 5 feet. This is how we define personal space. Personal space. This is good for friends, family, people you're familiar with. This is what New Jersey transit commuting is like right about now. This is personal space. Our fourth dimension, 0 to 2 feet, intimate space. This is for our closest loved ones, people we really care about. This is what New Jersey transit was like pre-COVID. I'll tell you, this pandemic has changed our notion of space. Now we have governments, scientists, really dictating how far apart we stay from each other. So in this environment, what I want to encourage you to do is for you to take more active responsibility for distance and the space around you. For one, it is critical that you remain safe in this environment. Please be cognizant, remain safe. And secondly, and most importantly, you need to help to build trust between your audience members and yourself. And by managing your space, you can build trust so you can effectively communicate and that you can connect. So again, secondly, manage your distance and manage your space. Third and finally, reclaim your power of touch. Reclaim your power of touch. About a month ago, I was jogging in Metuchen on the Middlesex Greenway. I'm not sure how many are familiar with the Middlesex Greenway. It's a beautiful long path and people usually run in both directions. I was jogging, trying to jog. In the distance, I saw a friend and fellow Toastmaster, Sunil Roberts. It's just pretty popular. And how many of you know Sunil? Marguerite and I actually helped coach him a couple years ago when he was doing a TED Talk, but was really successful. And I hadn't seen Sunil since the pandemic. We had traded a few emails and texts. I saw him. I think he recognized me. And we started to slow as we got to each other. We greet each other warmly. Sunil! Mario! I extended my hand for a fist bump, and he extended his. While that moment, it lasted for less than a second, it felt magical. That goes to show you that the power of touch is so critical in building and maintaining some of our most cherished relationships. You see, from the moment we are born till our final days, we need human touch. Skin-to-skin interaction becomes the foundation of what children are raised with because it builds trust with a parent, and it also becomes a foundation for relationships for the rest of our lives. So what I recommend to you, reclaim your power of touch. Do not be afraid to use touch. But just like I said in my last point, you need to manage your space. But also in this environment, it is critical to give and receive permission to touch and be selective on how you choose to be touched. For example, in this environment, we've now started to replace handshakes and hugs with bumps. You saw me earlier? Fist bumps. When I got up on stage with Michelle, elbow bumps. What other bumps do you choose? Foot bumps? Go ahead, what? Knee bumps? Booty bumps? Thank you, Isaac. Yes, booty bumps. So again, in this environment, it is critical that we reclaim our power of touch because we need it. We need to be safe, but it is so important to have touch. Friends, in closing, Just to close the loop on the story I said earlier, that young lady with the master interview, she didn't end up getting a job with my firm. But she taught me something so important. I have taken for granted the way that I connect with people and how I expect people to connect with me. And this is so important for us to explain. So remember, please use more expressive, nonverbal communication when connecting with other people. Manage your distance in your personal space and reclaim your power of touch. Because the truth is, as much as I don't want to admit it, this environment is not going to go back to what it was before. This indeed is our true, this is going to be our new normal. But what I have for you is good news. What you have been looking for, you already have. You have the power to change the world, and you have the power to shake things up. So I encourage you. When I practiced this, they said in 10 minutes, it would take the one. But the point is, I'm going to mop that up eventually, Susan, don't worry. But my point is, you have the possibilities in this environment to use your nonverbal communications to shake things up. So go ahead and reconnect. Madam